So eventually what happens is that the government is the most successful group of gangsters.
Hello.
Hey, Tony, thanks. Thank you. My apologies for my tardiness.
No worries at all, Chris. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Actually, pretty busy, productive day.
It's good. That's good.
Outside of the realm of, watching Wheels on the Bus and
they go round and round.
I hear you. Stay at home dad here, so I get you on that one.
Absolutely, man. My wife's a breadwinner, and I was waiting tables when COVID hit, and then I finally, out of luck of the seat of my pants, I was able to get picked up by a consulting company, knowing jack shit about the cannabis industry. But then, it's like drinking from a fire hose coming out of that, especially into this year's. Learned a lot. Really interesting stuff.
It's true. It's true. There's a lot to it, actually.
Yeah, and it just gets more complicated. And I think, with that education piece and building stronger coalitions. Before we go live, I actually want to just talk to you a little bit about what's kind of going behind the scenes as well. But
absolutely.
First, I would love to hear just, a little bit about you. What's your road, man?
Yeah.
What brought you to the here?
Absolutely. Well, for starters, we're not going to be going live. This is all pre-recorded, so no worries.
Right. Gotcha.
So totally laid back. No worries there. So I guess it depends on cannabis or libertarianism. As far as cannabis goes, I actually was like one of those straight edge kids in school that would never touch anything. I got straight A's, wouldn't do any drugs. I kind of had turned my face up against people that would, kind of thing. But my mom was like an alcoholic and she had problems with drugs, and she kind of like played that coin of don't do what I do kind of thing. But I saw the hard road she took, and so it kind of made me stay away from it, right? Well, when I got into college, a lot of peer pressure situations presented themselves, and I saw my friends, and they didn't necessarily have the same negative traits when they were under the influence of cannabis. So I was like, well, I guess I'll try that first before I try alcohol or anything else. I want to try cannabis. It seems like the most benign of them. And once I actually tried it, it actually did something medically for me that I didn't expect. My focus, my overall, motivation, my retention, my ability to sleep at night, like all these things changed for me. And it started like opening some doors in my mind that, there was something I was missing, and so I started exploring like, what is it, how does medical cannabis affect me and everything. And for years, like most people, I had to get it off the black market, off the streets, scrounge up anybody I could find in a sense. And it was scary and dangerous. And when I had kids, it became even more.
Couple of close calls.
Yeah, close calls, like all the things, when you had kids, it becomes even more precious. You don't even want to do it. But at the same time, you realize there's a medical need, you're trying to meet. And so yeah, throughout the years, we've always been, when I met my wife, Nadia, she was in a similar boat, used it very medically and conservatively, but
I still do. I mean, it's like low.
So we always pursued just knowledge and education about it. We tried to educate everybody else the best we could.
I think then like number one component, I think in my life where I'm like education. Like don't even get on it until you know what you're doing.
Yeah, right. Because we understand, it is a powerful medicine like a lot of other things can be. It can be a very benign herb as well, but it is a very powerful medicine the way a lot of people use it. And so it does need to be used with a certain amount of respect and care. And then a few years back, I was listening to a podcast, The Tom Woods Show, you might have heard of. And he had a gentleman on there who was talking about a brand new program that was being created through telemedicine that allowed anybody in all 50 states to get your medical card and have medical cannabis from a dispensary delivered to your doorstep. And there was a number of different collectives out there that were, trying this new method out, trying this new kind of program out. And they were kind of, I would say, taking advantage of what they called the trifecta law, which it was the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, which means that states cannot deny the rights of other states' laws. It's the reciprocity law, as it's called. Then there was the telemedicine law that got passed through Obamacare, where doctors can see patients over a telemarket and be able to prescribe them and be able to give them recommendations and such. And then there's the aspect of that as well, which allowed people to transport certain medications through the mail, but not all of them, which was a bit of a gray area in all of it. But they did it successfully. We very hesitantly joined the program, tested the waters with it, but through medical cannabis and seeing a doctor and everything, like really honed in on our experiences of learning true, medical cannabis and, how we like topicals and edibles and just the whole world of things.
It was there when I threw my back out.
Yes.
It was there to get me through some really dark days. It was there to help me advance myself, like to exercise and move my body without pain. It was there for every happy day and creative day. It was there for everything.
Yeah, it was definitely a tremendous awakening to actually have access to medical cannabis for the first time. Not street cannabis, where it's like you don't know what you're getting. It could be laced even at times, but yeah, so we've been doing that for a number of years. We've been huge proponents for it. We, anybody we can help try and get on that program, we do. It's been 6 years now. Actually, we've been on it successfully and had no issues whatsoever. And so we've actually gotten 4 or 5, I think, other people that we know personally on the program as well. And they've had, no issues with it as well. And it's kind of one of those things, free men don't ask for permission. The state of Wisconsin has not in any way, shape, or form given medical patients the right to be able to take care of their own bodies with the medicines that they so choose. And, you have to find ways around it at some point, because...
Well, and how many people are screaming for help to get off of their medication?
Exactly.
Screaming for help to be saved.
But yeah, that's kind of what brought us here. And, when I got involved with libertarianism, obviously that's a really strong vehicle for cannabis reform and decriminalization. And so it was kind of a happy marriage for me. I felt like it was, kind of meant to be. And when I realized there was no libertarian cannabis collective, there's no group that actually brings the two together. So that was something that I started up because I was like, there needs... Even if it's small, there needs to be some form of conversation to bring these two because they're one and the same. They really are.
Well, that's amazing about your medical experience because actually, paradoxically, I don't know much about medical. It's mostly the adult use, recreational side of things. Absolutely. So this is amazing. So I'd love to hear more education because obviously I think just that the powers that be gonna be going in incremental stages.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just the reality of the game, and that's the game that has to be played. But figuring out, what buttons to push and where things have to go. And so yeah, I was actually visited a farm east of Fond du Lac today. Okay. Some entrepreneurs selling Delta 8. In the CBD. One of the guys has a lot of experience in Maine, and Maine, he really enjoyed that medical model. And basically, and what they were saying, it was coming from more of individual farmer co-ops and having a medical program built out on that regulatory structure of the caregiver model, having those home grows, those producers under the Department of Agriculture, and allowing that infrastructure to build. So when it goes rec and trying to be as deregulated as possible on the state level, that everybody in Wisconsin that aren't mega corporations or multi-state operators coming outside into the state, there's already infrastructure in place. So when it goes recreational, you can pivot to they call it Wisconsin home or homegrown Wisconsin.
That's awesome.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it was a very interesting thing that, learning that part of things, and
what are your feels on the whole serious. Delta 8?
I don't, to be honest with you. I don't know enough about it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's kind of
I know a little bit about hemp, but the 0.3, but everybody's switching over of usage into Delta 8.
Yeah, it seems to be a bit stronger than the typical CBD everybody has access to right now. I think that's kind of why, anybody who does it on the more legal, per the state rules, the Delta 8 is still in that realm of where they can get away with taking it, but it has a certain level that still gets them that kind of edge off of them, I guess. At least that's what's been described to me, because we haven't actually really done it yet. Some of the people in Green Bay, there's actually a place in Green Bay that's selling Delta 8 CBD, and we know a friend of ours who works really closely with them. And that's kind of the way that's been described to us. But it's cool to see at least that there are a lot of people exploring other ways to continue to grow the hemp, CBD, and overall cannabis industries here in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
Yeah, and I think a lot of them, and they were telling me, have cannabis refugees. There were so many people I met in Colorado that were from Wisconsin. A lot of people that moved to Oregon, and a lot of people that moved to California. A lot of those people will move if cannabis, or what happens with that, and providing that infrastructure. When you start looking at, how do you want this to look? How do you want this to roll out? And dealing in today's political climate, I think the roughest is it's not a big enough issue to people to party lines.
Yeah, no, it's not. It needs to be.
I came from a mental health side, and people get jobs, people that have severe and persistent mental health issues, and being on the, just pretty much in the streets with people, working on that. And wife does the same thing for the state of Wisconsin. So from that end of things, that's how I got involved in politics. It's always about, level of community. And of course, I was able to get on a city council and then inevitably mayor. I tried to do the partisan thing. Moving here, it was kind of interesting, coming back to the Midwest. I'm originally from Indiana, and I, to be honest, was very lost politically, absolutely lost politically. And I felt betrayed at progressive end because it just helping people in a very altruistic community, voluntary associations, and other things like that, be more libertarian minded, but on the level of decentralizing power structures.
Absolutely.
And it was just a power fight for a transfer of power. And, the Republicans use their own tribalism and their own crony capitalism and their version of justice and their version of liberty, which is very narrow-minded, in my opinion.
It is.
And then the liberals, I cut them out, and then just talking about the far left and more of the classic socialists. That word gets tossed around way too much, but I'm talking about the ones who want centralized, hardcore socialist government. Denmark, the Nordic models, that's not socialism. And I don't like when people toss that word around, because real socialists fake. So coming out of that, man, I was just like, holy fuck, I don't know what to think. Then when the domestic terrorism bill rolled out, and just 2020 altogether, lockdown, everything else, the partisan divide, almost made me crazy, Tony. So that's why I'm asking you and Nadia, you guys are really starting to be like, hey man, we're putting ourselves out there. I have to give you guys tons of credit for that, because to put yourself out there, put your values out there, get out there in the public sphere of things, in civil discourse or non-civil at times, to really affect change. My hat's off on you on that.
Well, thank you.
To do it, in that positive way, and because it's hard, because it works. I read an article just the other day about we don't hire elected officials anymore, servants. We hire performance artists.
Yes.
That's so true. It's so sad how true that is, honestly.
Wasn't it just Trump's attorney that said, all right, done with the political theater?
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. It's so obviously political theater.
The axis of political theater. But yeah, it's, who knows, man? But my hat's off to you guys. I think you guys got something growing here,
I appreciate that. Yeah, we really try. That's kind of our whole purpose, is just to inspire other people. That's kind of what we talk about literally all the time, is, how
can we heal humans?
Exactly. And bring them together and help them understand that even if they might disagree, everybody still really truly agrees on the core value of just life. You want your life to be respected, and in that exact way, you want to respect other people's lives truly as well. You know, there are a few bad actors out there, but overall, most people just want to live and let live. You know, that's not just an American value, that's a human value. Yeah. You know, it really becomes. So even the people who have very heavy political beliefs that are different from ours, you know, that's kind of one of the things, the beauties of libertarianism too. If we had a federally decentralized libertarian style government, you could have small local communities that are deciding for themselves to be more left or more right, more socialist, more capitalist, more, you know, at the local level is where those things kind of work the best anyway, because then they're more voluntary. That, you know, you can leave if you don't like it. Like, it's a lot easier to leave your town than it is to leave your country. You know, absolutely. You know, you move from Indiana to Colorado to Wisconsin, you know, that state jumping is even a lot easier than moving from the United States if you don't like it. And you know what? That was one of the points that Joe Jorgensen brought up throughout this summer that I really liked. You know, right now, America has become so politicized that, let's say you like school choice and you don't want to vaccinate your child, but your neighbor doesn't want school choice and wants vaccinated children. Now, the only way for that conflict to be resolved is to go to the ballot box and literally elect somebody to overrule the other person's lifestyle just to get your way of life inflicted upon everybody. Whereas what it really should be is you can just send your child to the school that best suits them and best suits you, and the other person can send their kid to the same, and there's no conflict, you know? And I think that's just the way most people live, and that's our entire motto, is just helping people understand that, breaking down those stigmas and barriers. You know, I don't have to agree with everybody. I don't, you know, I meet a lot of people who wouldn't understand my lifestyle either. But, you know, like even our reverse lifestyle, we get a lot of criticism for that.
Oh gosh,
you know, just ridiculously arbitrary life. You know, like, oh,
he
well,
needs to get a job.
Yeah, the man has to be working. Are you kidding me? You know,
shit, raising kids is 24/7.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
5 years into this now.
Yeah.
Almost 5 years into this. It is, you know.
I started late. I have actually a 2-year-old and one in the oven.
Right.
Can I say that anymore?
Yeah. Why not? Why not?
I didn't check with the
no offense here.
I don't want to get you canceled. It's like,
no offense.
My woman's the breadwinner, man. By a wide margin. Yeah, she's military, man. She got her master's degree. She's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, man, it's a full-time job, man. I'm exhausted, and it's, you know, wheels on the bus, and they go round and round. It's Nadia
forever, and they'll never stop.
Groundhog Day, dude. Groundhog Day. Get out of this phase, man. You could graduate to other things, you know. But
yeah.
So
I'm there,
man. Oh yeah, man. People just, you know, that's the kind of thing, and that's really what's lost, you know. And you touched on so much on that. One is that, you know, there is a civil society. There is where that modicum of liberty and personal responsibility and civic responsibility all mixes, and that judgment on whatever level it could come from anywhere, and which is wrong. You know, I mean, liberty's not easy. No. You know, throughout the history of the world, it's been mostly controlled. The individual has been oppressed in one way or another on any level, and on any given level. In this country,
so now liberty feels uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's not supposed to be comfortable, because it's hard to maintain, it's hard to promote, and hard to grow, and almost impossible. And, you know, and what you also said is touched on is the civil discourse and the dialogue. Yeah. That has to happen. You're not going to agree with everybody on anything and everything. And uniformity in thinking and action destroys everything.
Yeah, it does.
It really
you can't sterilize. There's no such thing as a sterile society. You know, you cannot just make everything the same and standard, and you need to have that variety, because even when I get into a discussion with somebody I don't agree with, I sit there and now I'm considering their point, and I'm now challenging it against my own view. And then it actually helps me grow and develop my own view. You know, it helps me even understand myself better, you know, and that's what more people need to get out of those kinds of discussions. And, you know, even when I get like baselessly accosted now over my cookies, you know, I just,
that was an interesting.
You just reduce it down to humor and you know, kill them with kindness out of it, because at this point, as I've expressed many times, stressing out, like it's not gonna get us anywhere, you know. Like, stressing out has gotten us exactly to where we are right now. Everybody's been so stressed and afraid and worried and paranoid, and we need to relax.
Now the big bad 2020.
Yeah, the big bad 2020 and the lockdowns and you know, all of that. And
I survived 2020.
Everything that can be said for that.
Beans.
Right? Yeah. It's not like the next pandemic's not around the corner, you know. There's always you know, but that's the interesting thing, you know, when you're talking plagues and pandemic, it's really in a lot of ways that you're pretty much helpless.
Absolutely.
As a society and as a human being, because it's like, wow, how are we going to fight this, or how are we going to do this? So that is one of the scary, you know, four horsemen, quite a apocalyptic terms, but it's like, what are you going to do about it? It's going to kill you, man.
yeah, you know, there's a reason why. Absolutely. That's a terrifying thought. And, you know. But,
you know, actually, you know, in the big schism of things, you know, and I try not to look at history as linear, you know.
No,
because there's a lot of circular, but in addressing pandemics, you have a vaccine on the market in a year. And we stumbled through all of this, you know. I mean, what I would like to see, you know, on a governing level is what we learn from this, and what do you do better on, one, not locking down the whole damn economy while you're doing it, and two, saving lives without infringement upon liberties. Those are the two biggest things. And you know, how is that going to happen? You know, when I hear, you know, you look at this latest freeze, the cold spell with Texas, you know, and they deregulated. Yeah. I'm like, one little thing. Yes, this sucks. It's a whole week of, you know, but, you know, sorry. Yeah.
It feels like hell to them, I'm sure. You know,
yes,
like, not to discredit it at all. Like,
yes.
Hell freezing over.
Right, there you go. And no knock on them at all. But now, but that's a call, you know, either, you know, if you're, in one camp, it's okay, it's all because of renewables, and I'm not even going to go down that track, pulling that back. But also on the other side of the fence is, well, that's why we have to concentrate power and bureaucracy all in one thing, because everything would be better that way. And I'm like,
yeah, why are they? These don't have to be opposites.
So I'm like, oh, so it's just a power grab, you know?
Exactly.
You know, you know, and then of course, you know, flirtation with, we're just going to nationalize everything because everything's going to affect your life. And yeah, it sucks. This happens, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and whatever happened to self-preparedness, you know? And actually, what I've been seeing, I have a lot of friends now because of the Libertarian Party in Texas, and honestly, the number one sentiment that I'm getting out of this is all of them are realizing they were underprepared, and now they're not going to be. Like, almost all of them have said, we're going out and getting, you know, backup generators. We're going to start having food stores. We're going to start, you know, like, we're going to start building our houses better and preparing them better. Like, that's what happens. That's the ingenuity of humans, is that when we're faced with a crisis and adversity, we overcome it, and then we learn and grow and adapt. If you take that away and you just make the government control everything and nobody is in control of their own accountability, you lose those skills and traits. You lose that ability to grow, you know, out of that situation even.
Well, and then you have a lot of people dying, depressed, upset, kids hungry, you know, like.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Like,
well, look, because the government fails everything it does too, on top of it.
Exactly.
I mean, look at the way it just handles any sort of disaster relief to tell you how it would handle that in general, because I mean, it's Katrina. I mean, Katrina was a bad situation, but the way that the government handled it made it worse, you know?
You know, and one of the things, though, that, which is interesting, because this really encapsulates another issue that's really important to me on a level of federal, is that Bush got slammed because he waited for so long. The governor didn't even ask for help for 3 days. And Bush couldn't do anything to send in federal assistance because of it was either posse comitatus or the 1807 Insurrection Act. I can't remember. It's one of those two mechanisms, or both in tandem, that couldn't govern it. So he had to say, hey, I need federal help. And Bush had to sit on his hands until then. Now, not that I'm saying that the whole theater and everything holistically, but I found that little part.
It is very interesting.
Just an interesting fact. Not that I'm a Bush fan at all.
Yeah, I always say impeach all modern presidents. They can all just go away if all I care. They're all corporatists, you know. I mean,
Yeah. Well, yeah, man. I'm like no occupation without declaration.
Absolutely.
Ever.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or any involvement. And, you know, one of my favorite American political writings is George Washington's farewell address.
Ah, yes.
You know, not only the first part of basically presaged the Civil War and the regionalism that was driving the parties, and then also the economics, all that stuff, and of course slavery as being the top issue, but the wariness of factionalism, and party in general.
Yes.
And we're there. I mean, we're always there. Machiavelli is not dead.
No. No.
But
tribalism is so ingrained.
But I have not, in my life, I have not seen the factions this bloodthirsty.
Oh my God, no. It scared us numerous times. I mean, you know, as having kids, just the amount of open violence in our streets is troubling. It troubles me to the core, because some of those things happened in our backyard here in Wisconsin, you know, and that really helps you understand how close to home this is all becoming. This is no longer just some faraway war on terror overseas. Now there's war in our backyards, you know, and it's American citizens that are the targets many of these times.
Yep.
And, you know, all these times, just to say, all these times.
Well, and now you have, you know, the corporate elite, whatever we want to call them, political elite, whoever.
The oligarchy.
Yeah, you know, they're using the hardcore divide of the proletariat, progressive, whomever. I don't care how you want to,
all your labels,
but they're rolling out, you know, with this domestic terrorism bill and the other things, and realizing the full police state. Mm-hmm. Everybody's like, oh, this is unprecedented. We have to go after, you know, white supremacy and all this other stuff, or, you know, in the whomever, whatever group. Because that group unto itself that promulgates these laws and enacts those laws, man, they've got one thing in common. That's their own, that's just to keep themselves in power.
Absolutely.
And
the growth of the state.
Yes. And the scary thing of, there is precedent of what these types of laws will do. And toward the end of the Roman Republic, I think Sulla enacted the first one. Basically, it came from, and I have terrible Latin, but lex majestas. And basically it was centered around treason. It was initially and historically a military term, because everything in early Rome, all politics were military. Everybody who owned the political machinery, they fought. They were in the field every single year. And it was just treason, like abandoning your post or disobeying orders and things like that. And it could very severe punishment. Well, it came into more jurisprudence, and then it started being used as a political weapon. Sure. Augustus used it in great fashion to end the Republic. He would coin that phrase, and most of the time it was exile and banishment, confiscation of all your property, all of your attendants' property, all of your family's property. It belonged to the state. The state would then, Augustus would hand it out to his favorites. And the Roman upper class and the new class, the novus homo, both classes politically were decimated by this. And of course, you know, we all know what happened at the end was absolutism. Yeah. So all of these internecine fights that we're having domestically and all this other stuff and all this political theater, at the end of the day, history says, yeah, we're going to absolutism. And I don't think anybody fucking wants that. And if anybody does, then yeah, that's...
I know.
So anyways, those are my 2 cents, and I'm sorry. I'm rambling on. Thanks for that one.
Don't even apologize. Don't even.
No, it's so good.
First of all, I love history. So that's what I went to school for as well. So you can talk history with me all day long. It's interesting you bring up Rome, though, because actually my son was recently learning Rome. We homeschool, and we were learning through Rome. And we were having some interesting parallels in our conversations about America and Rome. And he was going through the fall and all the different things that led up to the fall and everything. And it was I could literally point to things that were going right in our daily news cycles that were like right in his history, you know. And it was nice to be able to make the parallel for him, but then it was kind of, you know, scary on the flip side of it to be like, yeah, I'm seeing history repeating itself because
right
nobody heeds the warnings of history, you know. And like you said, everybody keeps calling it unprecedented, and I think they use that term purposefully so that people think it's the first time. Yes, this is all historical. It's never happened before, you know, like everything's got to have so much importance.
Well, you know, that's why all politics should be like, really, Donald Trump opened up a great new marketing scheme with like WWE style, unprecedented. Idiocracy, you know.
Yeah.
Never been done before.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
Come in here and smash these cars, beat Supreme.
Now we just got to have electrolytes fed to our plants and everything will be happy, right?
Dude, I'll take Brondo all day.
Yeah.
That's what plants crave. So.
It wasn't supposed to be an instruction manual.
Say something smart, Tony.
Ouch, my balls. And honestly, yeah, it's crazy, but we can honestly, I think that we come to this. We actually have this, you know, discussion all the time. Can we prevent this from its total collapse? Because it seems like it's on this, you know, train wreck of a derailment. Or is all hope lost? You know, do we just sit back, eat some popcorn, and watch it burn at this point, and then we rebuild afterwards? You know? There
won't be anything afterwards.
I hope.
We're too deep.
Yeah, that's true. I guess we have nuclear weapons. It's kind of
there has to be something. You know, and China has played a great long game over the last 20, 30 years.
A scary long game.
Oh yeah, man. And America's basically been hoodwinked and.
I worry about that too sometimes. I really do.
So, you know, I don't like playing geopolitics because it gets us in a lot of trouble. But, oh my gosh, if, you know, when France even comes out, which was basically the cauldron of postmodernism in the 60s that really affects what we're seeing in the left today.
Yes.
For them to come out and start talking about the dangers of what the left offers. We already know what the dangers the right offers. It's well documented. It's scary.
Absolutely.
Where's the guardrails, you know? And that's, you know, when I started really listening to Jordan Peterson, you know, oh, he's a white supremacist and all this. I'm like, not even close, man.
No, I don't agree either.
Really intelligent.
Yeah, he is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There are a lot of voices out there that are trying to silence with those kind of labels that truly aren't. They don't spread that kind of message at all. Yeah. But they, you know, that's how they're trying to be shut down.
Yeah.
You know.
And and that's how I kind of got woke.
Yeah, right.
From the like, holy moly, what is going on here? But yeah, we'll see what happens with all that stuff. But I'm in agreement with, you know, we're raising our kids right now and we're doing what we can do, just surviving. But yeah, we have to participate. And,
you do.
You know, on whatever level. Right now, mine's just cannabis while I'm sifting through, you know, my ideals and what's happening. But I'll be back in the game and hitting it hard because that's it. This is it. Yeah. In a lot of ways. And I think, you know, it was a breath of fresh air to see at least Justin Amash with the Libertarian message. And it was a tweet. And I think it might have been you guys, Door County, that tweeted it out. And he just spelled it out. What's the most important thing? Local elections. Mm-hmm. Then, you know, your state. Mm-hmm. Federal needs to be minimalized. So I think the practical things of trying to, you know, work toward ideals of libertarianism instead of working, you know, from the ideals, you work toward them. Exactly. Is to invert that. Mm-hmm. And that message resounded with me. I was like, I almost teared up because like that's what needs to happen. Yeah. To make sure that all of the taxes, all of the structure, anything that happens, the most important is on the local level because that is what is closest to the people. And what you were saying earlier in the conversation, to circle back, was that's where communalism is less dangerous than hierarchical collectivism. As an i.e. a federal government that has unlimited powers over the individual.
Over everybody, yes. And they have no accountability to you whatsoever.
Exactly. And you think that's social justice in any shape or form for anybody or by anybody? No, it's not. It's authoritarianism, plain and simple.
We actually just a couple of nights ago talked to Adam Kokesh. I'm not sure if you're too familiar with him at all.
I don't know.
He's a libertarian activist. He's been with the party for many years. He was a Marine in Iraq, war vet, but that's kind of what woke him up to, the troubles of war. And then he came back and he was an activist against war, an anti-war activist and everything. But he's a huge proponent for localization. And localization is what he spreads around as the message of, eliminating that federal government basically out of the picture at all. It should all come down to local and state governments, because that is where all the power is held anyway, really. The power has been centralized by the executive branch of our government, but really written into the confounds of this entire structure, it was always in the hands of the states. It's just been kind of subverted throughout the years, It's
been usurped.
Exactly.
And that, going back to uniformity, if the federal government of anything is, when Jefferson said that the states are the laboratories of democracy, you could pick any number of how does this state do this? Whether that's education or whether anything, the feds should get everybody together and say, okay, man, pound it out. What's good here may not work here. What's good for you? Pick this and this. Instead, they create a bureaucracy and then they create the mandates. Mandates.
Everybody has to be standard.
And the great thing with the federal government, because they can borrow, is if you do not enact our mandates, you get no money.
Exactly.
Daddy,
extort them. That's total extortion too.
Pretty much.
I mean, come on. And
we'll see some of that when the gun laws roll out and the sheriffs.
Oh my God!
We'll say we're not going to prosecute, and then the feds will say, "All right, we're going to pull this. We'll pull this."
Mm-hmm. Like your big military tank, Sturgeon Bay Police Department. Well, you're going to have to take guns if you want to keep it. Actually, that reminds me.
Wow. Yeah. Right.
Recently, our Sturgeon Bay Police Department for Valentine's Day threw up a post saying making hearts skip a beat since 1883. So I commented on it and I said, I know this is a joke and all, but I don't think it's really a good look to be joking about the fact that you intimidate and coerce and put people into fear over nonviolent offenses. And then another libertarian had come back on and posted as well, and then they took the post down. And I was like, but come on, literally you're making a heart skip a beat because people are terrified of you when they shouldn't be. You're like, that's ridiculous.
Because of overregulation.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. I'm not against police officers. Yeah. I'm against the fact that the laws that have been written have turned them into these enemies of the people. That's what they are now, this de facto control arm of the state. And yeah.
No, you hit on that. It's very interesting. You say that because when I spent 6 years on the first Judicial Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee, which is 2 counties, Jefferson and Gilpin, which is basically West Metro, one of the counties that go up in the mountains that has casinos, Black Hawk and Central City, about 600,000 people. And after working with law enforcement, it's funny, the only time I've ever dealt with law enforcement was when I was a youngster drinking out of daddy's whiskey bottle and getting in trouble. Yeah. Just good old fun.
Right.
But it's like that's all I need. I don't need to go that farther. But I never got caught when I had cannabis or anything like that. Luckily, I was never doing anything stupid to get caught. But unlike drinking,
yeah, right.
But that's another story. But anyways, long stories. Where was I? I'm sorry, I got off track a little bit there. But
the judicial community.
Yeah, thank you. So, okay, at the end of all of this, and trying to move policy and really was, trying to move what the war on drugs was doing, especially with the mental health. How were we responding to mental health calls? How are we responding to homelessness, substance use in general? How integrated healthcare right in the streets, and those were moving the ball. There was justice reform on that level to get better care. To get proactive care and really to cut costs, because the reactive way is, your judicial systems in and out, the revolving door. That's just money. Then you have the healthcare side. The ER is just the stop. It's the turf. It's the final turf.
Yeah.
We're going to the ER, and that's $5,000 a pop. And if someone's on Medicaid, the hospitals know they're getting paid.
Yep. Regardless.
So there's no investing in that
Actual
kind
care.
of. Yeah. Now I say, I just want to say that as like a big, larger picture. There are so many great people that I'd met.
1,000%.
Absolutely.
But to sum it up was that I looked around and I was like, you know what, I split to her, right? I became vice chair. It was great. I was able to sit on the executive committee and learn even more.
That's awesome.
But I went to the head judge and I said, you know what, now that I'm leaving and running for a state house, left my position as mayor, fulfilled my term and went for that. I did a little farewell, and I was like, there's 40, 50 years of policy that has been enacted here. And, talking about, the respect that I had for everybody at this table and all working together and trying to move the ball. And it was a purple table. A lot of people that were conservative, a lot of people that were very liberal, progressive, whole walks of life,
and everything. Right.
A lot of stakeholders. But I said, at the end of the day, I support law enforcement just for the simple fact that most of the law enforcement, aside from sheriffs, that's an administrative position. And correct me if I'm wrong, under an administrative position, you're under the arm of a local municipality. You're under the arm of a state. They're enacting policy. Therefore, what the hell are the policymakers doing to making this a policy? I.e. the war on drugs, the civil liberties being violated left and right. Yeah. So, starting with cannabis reform, I think that's low hanging fruit, and so low hanging. It's like, let's just get her done.
I know. And that's kind of where we're at here in Wisconsin too. It's been it's so overdue. Everybody in the state, it's like 70% or more at this point, especially for medical, but even recreational, I think is like 50-60%, I think. Approval at this point. Just get it done, just pass it. There's no point in holding out any longer.
Why are we waiting?
The state itself is already in disrepair from all the COVID restrictions that shut the state down. We need all this revenue to begin with, and I'm not somebody who agrees with taxation at all. If a local municipality wants to vote and pass taxation, that's one thing, that's voluntary. But obviously a forced taxation of some sort, I'm not, as a libertarian, I cringe at the thought. But at the same time, they're going to tax it. So you're going to tax it as it is. You might as well legalize it, get the tax off of it, and help benefit the parts of the state while also opening the market for the recreational and the medical patients that need this. What do you think we need to do, to start making that happen? Because obviously, part of this I wanted to bring up, Governor Evers keeps flirting with all these different topics of it, but he's been saying that since the beginning. So is that something you think he's actually going to do, or do you think we need to keep pushing harder?
I think I'm going to start with the decrim bill by Shea Sorwell and was it Senator Bernier. $100 fine across the board in perpetuity. 10 grams or under. So obviously you lose the product and it's $100. Taking a look at that. Of course, I'm a local guy, so I immediately call Shea and, dude, local control, man. And he's like, I know. But, overall, the people in, a lot of the normal circles, we are going to support it just because it's moving the ball. Now, the second phase, at least just in the immediacy, is what the Republicans are going to come back and what the medical bill looks like. Is it going to allow for home grows? Is it going to allow for that craft industry to grow to set infrastructure for recreational cannabis to be legalized in the future? But here's the kicker, and this is the one thing that I learned, and it was very interesting, is that allows a lot, if you put that model into place with medical cannabis, is it allows your agriculture and your farmers, you actually go from the local level of entrepreneurship and small business opportunity and growing it out. So when recreational, very unregulated, like on the state level, we'll get to that in a second, I guess, probably, but it has that infrastructure to grow. And so you're not going to have multi-corporations, especially if the feds pass a lot of stuff. There's a group that came out that's heavy hitters. But you're going to have multi-state operators coming in. The scale of operation will dwarf anything that, just regular folk with a little bit of pocket change can throw in this game.
Yeah, right.
And basically it won't even be a Wisconsin enterprise. So that's going to be something, looking at the regulations on that to build what is really homegrown Wisconsin. That's going to be important. Right. And and center, agriculture, industrial, commerce, delivery, it doesn't matter what, the entire value chain of the cannabis industry. But, and to your point about the local thing, I would really love, and this is just my take and my plug, is to have the state set whatever, I would love, 5 to 10%. Even Colorado at first rolled out, I think 15 or 25, and then they upped it. But allow the inverse of having the locals being able to tax it more and having that opportunity. Because when you get to the recreational level, you want to see that regulatory structure that, all right, we set our regs, and as long as you get local approval, whatever. The state's out of the game. Now, when you get more of the licensing process that picks winners and losers, like Illinois, the other, New Jersey, they were going to get ready to try and do something in South Dakota before the judge put a kibosh on that. Yep. But they were only going to do 2 licenses maybe, and those having to be vertically integrated. And just to get into the game, when you're starting to talk like that, and just straight up into the game, you're talking $5-10 million just to even get in the door. So when government creates those regulations to pick winners and losers by having rounds of, okay, we're only going to do these licenses and whatnot, it sucks. Now, on the other side of that is, if it does go to the locals, and it still has a problem in Colorado, as many of the municipalities prohibit it. But you know what? You don't get the tax money for it then. It's not your experiment, not your problem. Don't worry about it. But you don't get to bust people and make money. You don't get a benefit. And so,
and that's really the way it all should be handled, really, Yeah.
So, it's a mix. And I think, moving into the political atmosphere of it, it is going to have to find all the stakeholder groups, whether that's the trades, whether that's the agriculturalists, a lot of the people that are in the CBD hemp business are waiting for this to happen. Talking to them. You're talking to CPAs, you're talking to lawyers, you're talking to commercial real estate developers, you're talking to the Manufacturers Association. What can be manufactured here that it surrounds the entire cannabis industry? What can be distributing? The whole 9 yards, everything that affects the value chain is talking about, going to these people and saying, okay, let's talk about how this affects you and how this can be positive for you. Getting everybody in a room, finding some champions, pounding out some good policy and going for it. And I would love to see, our unicorn of, hey, this is totally local affair. Everybody's doing it, and it's so unregulated, and it's just kind of like a free for all. But we know that's not going to happen. So we gotta jump in the fight right now and get a little more organized. And I think that's going to be happening here shortly. And I think with Evers coming out, with that full legalization in the budget, and the interesting thing is, the Department of Revenue and the Department of Agriculture overseeing all of that structure. At least in that, what I've seen from other states, that's a good sign that it's not going to be as highly restricted and kind of like a little private cookie jar for the government like Illinois has made.
Yeah.
You inflate the price up and keep it there.
That's all I ever hear is Illinois is just a garbage. It's just a dumpster fire down there. Yeah, it's just a dumpster.
There's 6 lawsuits happening and whatnot. So, I think I know. Okay, so just from hearing a lot of the chatter, just the budget overall is like the biggest wish list from him. Sure. Whether that's I hear whatever groups, and so Will Evers, one, how far and how hardcore is he going to try and push it in the legislative session, and on what and what's going to happen? What's actually going to make it to committee if the Republicans are going to let out, what that's going to look like, how many stakeholders are going to be involved when we're talking about a medical program. Because if you have a no flower and low THC oil and you have something that's coming out like Georgia, you had to have a $10 million price tag to just get one of the 6 licenses out in Georgia. And it's very restrictive and it's hard game.
Yeah, and it doesn't exactly do what it's supposed to either. Yeah.
So we'll see what that happens. So you have this legislative session and see how it plays out. I mean, we were hitting low-hanging fruit with saying the Shea and really backing some of those liberty movement, more libertarian-minded in the Republican Party at this time, and really helping them out. And or I guess I'd not say helping, but championing them, their willingness to move to reform. And the Democrats, they're already there on some level. I'm not sure they have an idea on what type of regulations they want to see. I think Evers, if I'm just going to say it to be frank, if the polling is there to make it an issue come his run, it'll be an issue. I think we have to help with that. We have to be a little more coordinated coming into this. So there's going to be some more groups, I think, that are going to be a little more, and the great that, kudos with the Libertarians, and a lot of the party and some of the elected officials that are already involved on the local level.
Absolutely. Like Brian Defferding. Yeah, he's he's amazing.
Love him to death, man. And in that voice moves the ball.
Yeah, does. Absolutely.
And moving into local elections. And I know that the Libertarians want to start playing really hardcore in the state elections. And I think that's wonderful. So, that's pushing the narrative right there.
It is.
So you have that. You have other groups that I think are going to start coalescing and getting a little more serious on what we need to do to get things done. Now, that being said, how many times do we see something done and it just comes out like a big clusterfuck?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So
who's to know what's going to look like on the other side, right?
So I mean, it's like, it's great. We're hearing a lot of stuff, but second is let's move it up a notch so we can actually have some really organized efforts on what type of regulations that we want to see.
I do think there are a lot of voices in 2022 coming up here that are going to be pro-cannabis. We're working with Jacob Vandenplas for his congressional run. He's a pro-cannabis, on a state level, or I guess national level, but from the state. Jonathan Wickman, I've been hearing a lot of talk about. He's like a Republican, but he's pro-cannabis, and he's going to be running for governor.
I have spoken with him.
Okay. There's also a Libertarian gentleman who hasn't officially announced yet that he's running for governor, but he is making a lot of talk and getting a lot of people organized where he's, flirting with the idea of running. He'd be pro-cannabis as well. So, I mean, there's some people on that state level that'll be nice going into 2022. We are both going to be running here locally in 2022. She's going to be running for city council, and I'm going to be running for board supervisor. So hopefully, we can get on as well and start making some more noise here in Door County about legalization, and decriminalization, like Brian has done down, in his area as well.
Nadia's back there like,
oh yeah, we're gonna be the thorn in the side.
I think that's amazing. You know what? When's that happening?
2022 will be when we camp. When
that's right. Well, let me know, man. I'll come up and knock doors for you.
Awesome. That'd be great.
Yeah. Right. Well, absolutely. All right, folks. Well, you guys have a great night, and
you as well.
Hey, thanks for your time.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.